So in this video, we want to look at something that's very close to the things that we were looking at in the last chapter, which is working with these Bezier curves. And we're going to be doing that with our text. And the reason why we can do that is because text at its heart is basically just vector art. And we'll see that even more in the next video. But for right now, let's just go ahead and open a new document. And I'm just going to go ahead and create an insertion point. And I'm just going to type something like, you can type whatever you like, it doesn't matter. Now notice here that my current setting is aligned to center, and this will become important in a few minutes. Now, the thing that we want to do here is we want to change our curve style. Currently we have our curve style set to curve flat. We have the choice of curve ribbon, curve perpendicular, and curve stretch. Now, the idea with these is that basically what's going to happen is we're going to create a Bezier curve that we can then edit. And I'll just go ahead and click the curve ribbon and you'll see what I mean. So see that there's now a Bezier curve under that text, and that curve has 2 points, one there and one there, and we can edit those points. But let's first just look at what the different things do. So there's the ribbon, there's the perpendicular, and there's the stretch. So these are different effects, and of course, if you make the font size larger, you'll begin to see what that stretch is doing. It's literally stretching at the apex here. The S is considerably larger, whereas the perpendicular, the S is much more natural looking. And with the stretch, everything is being kind of deformed around a corner. So what you're going to choose here is depending upon the effect that you want to do, as well as your font size. So let's just go ahead and I'm just going to zoom way in here so that we can see this and work with this. Go back up here to our text tool. And again, notice that Bezier curve. We can now change that using the shape selection tool. And if I click on the endpoint, you'll see that we do have a handle, and we're able to grab that handle and make changes to that curve, and the text will deform according to whatever changes we make to that curve. So let me just go ahead now and just reduce that font size a bit so that we can see that on the curve. And you can see how interesting that is. Now, of course, we can also make that curve wider like so. And by making it wider, we can now increase the font size and keep the effect that we're looking for. So the idea being here is that we have a lot of functionality in this curve that is very similar to what was going on with our shapes. Now, this little slider here is basically controlling the position. So it's going to take it on down that curve as if it's moving. Now, of course, these are like animation effects, and a lot of this stuff actually reminds me a lot of working in After Effects, and this can be really cool when working with movies and animation in Coreal Painter, which is a capable animation program. So something certainly to keep in mind when you're thinking about animation, if you ever do think about animation in this program. But this basically is setting it around that align point. So if we change the align point, you'll see now that that is taking us all the way off the edge of that curve because the align point is there. And if we set the align point to the right and we set that all the way over here, you'll see that now that's completely off the edge of this. And if I just come over with my grabber and move over, you can see that's completely shot off the page there. And the reason why is because the end of this is set to right justify, and we are currently pulled all the way over to 0. So the idea being is that this will need to be at a different place depending upon what you have aligned. And again, you don't want to use, when you're using any of these text tools, you don't want to use the spacebar functionality, because if you use the spacebar functionality, you'll find that you are actually setting in spaces, which can throw off your spacing. In addition to this, and I'll just set that back to the center and move it like so. In addition to this, in all these different functions here that you see, we have one other function that actually takes the text and converts it to a shape, and we'll look at that in the next video.